Hello. This morning I got a phone call from a journalist and he asked me if I wanted to give some reflections as a business and leadership coach about the leadership capabilities of our new European President, Herman van Rompuy. So I did some research and started to think from different points of view about his leadership style to try to find out what capabilities we find back in this person. And I came to an interesting conclusion that's actually based on an insight that has been published by Jim Collins in his book Good to Great. Maybe some of you have read the book, and to be brief and summarizing the book, the key idea of good leadership is that if you look at companies where leaders made a fundamental change that started at a certain point in time and that made an increase in sales and revenues and a stable increase over more than 15 years of time, most of the names of these CEOs, we don't know them. So if you know the name of a CEO, it's quite probable that he has a different leadership style. And those CEOs that became famous wrote a lot of books where media figures quite often were people who were control people, who tried to control a lot of details in the company. They were quite good often in cost cutting and restructuring. But few of them, very few of them, were successful in building a stable business that would remain stable over time after they left. Most of these very well-known leaders had an empire that collapsed when they left because they empowered themselves and disempowered the others. Now what we see Herman van Rompuy doing is specifically this what Jim Collins, based on business research, identifies as the highest level of leadership. Those who initiate and create results that will continue to grow and progress over time after they leave. That means they try to focus on worthwhile goals, goals that motivate a team. They build progressively, step by step, the right team, and they start moving towards the goals. Now, if you look at Herman van Rompuy, what did he get? He got a function of president that does not have the full maturity of a president. If you look at the United States and you look what Obama gets, he gets a presidency where there's a lot of power. First of all, his context is he has to be elected by the larger public. So communicating in a charismatic way to the larger public is very important to get the votes. Herman van Rompuy, he doesn't have to be elected by the larger public in Europe, because at this moment he was indicated as a president. So that means for the moment, his stakeholders, the ones who vote for him, are the leaders of the 27 countries. So where an Obama has to be pleasing a large audience all the time, and popularity index is a very important thing, for Herman van Rompuy it doesn't matter, because he has to work with the 27 egos, and many of them are egos, strong egos. And that's the difference with Van Rompuy. Van Rompuy seems to be a great leader, but not with a strong ego. He doesn't need to be affirmed in his ego to feel okay with himself. He feels okay, and he's more and probably only fundamentally worried about the goals he wants to achieve. So he's a goal-oriented person that is not waiting for applause on the road. And that's a strength, because for him, he can afford himself, even if journalists and press might talk negative about this, but he can afford himself to let people with a strong ego like Sarkozy or Merkel or George Brown or Gordon Brown or others to be the so-called winners of a meeting, because he doesn't need to be perceived as the winner. He is the team leader that at this moment doesn't have a lot of power, who step by step has to conquer the confidence of those people. And if those people will be more satisfied if they can come forward with their ego, why not? Why not allow them to steal the show, as long as a leader, you bring people towards the goal where you want to bring them. And I think he has a reasonable chance of doing that because he has proven in the past something similar in Belgium. In the year 93 till 2003, 10 years of time, he was finance minister responsible for budget control. Now, what he did together with prime minister at that time, so he didn't want to be the prime minister, he was at that time number 2. He was the one who helped to decrease budget deficit from 135% of GDP to less than 100% in 10 years of time. Now, that's not a pleasant job, but it's a really important job for the nation, because it saves the nation from lots of trouble in the future. So that's what he has done in the past. Another thing is that when they asked him to become Prime Minister of Belgium some years ago, he didn't want to accept because he knew that it was a quite poisoned gift. Then they insisted, please, can you do it? And then finally he said, if you accept this and this and this condition that I need to be able to do a good job, then I will accept it. So there again you see that he was not looking for the prestige of the job, but he wanted to be sure he could do a good job, and he was more focused on negotiating for having the necessary parameters under control that he needed to be able to become a good prime minister. And I think that's also the reason why they chose him to become president of Europe, because he can allow others to stand forward and still negotiate, listen to people, and align visions step by step progressively in the right direction. And I think that one of the major contributions that he's going to make probably is that he's going to build a stronger presidency for the future presidents. Because Europe chose a president because they wanted to get started some way. But at the same time, there was a lot of people who really wanted to be the important people and still have their seat at the G8 or G20 meetings. Because if they would have a president that would have to tell it all, they would not be present there anymore and they would lose their power. So he has to get support from powerful people to support him. And he does that slowly, step by step. But I have the impression, and of course only history can tell us if this is the right vision or not. There's no science that can prove it. There's just some indications that I seem to recognize with my experience as a business coach, that he has certain talents that might contribute to long-term success. And I think that is humility. Just to be a human, present being is one of his main assets. So I hope I could contribute to your thoughts by sharing my thoughts about his leadership. And I wish you a nice day, and I hope to see you back on one of the next editions on my blog or on the website or on our YouTube channel. Thanks a lot and see you. Bye.